As the football season winds down, it's the perfect time to go to a game. SeatGeek takes tickets from all across the web and puts them into one area, making buying simple. They put these on a 1 to 100 scale, so you know you're getting a good deal. Plus, if you haven't done it yet, use my promo code KTO on your first purchase. That's good for $20 off. Big shout out to SeatGeek for the sponsor. Now, let's get into this video. In America, the NFL is so popular, no other professional football league in the country even comes close. Over the course of the last 50 years, there has been multiple leagues that have attempted to compete with the NFL. The WFL in the 70s was a total disaster, and the XFL in the early 2000s only lasted one season before completely falling apart. But in the mid-80s, there was a point when it seemed like the NFL could be taken over by the United States Football League. In 1965, New Orleans businessman David Dixon saw a potential opportunity, a professional football league that plays when the NFL and college football were in their offseason. He called it the Dixon Plan, the blueprint for the USFL. And over the course of the next 15 years, he worked on securing NFL caliber stadiums, securing national TV contracts. Teams planned for large year-one preseason promotional budgets to introduce teams to the local market. A tight salary cap of $1.8 million per team. The NFL didn't introduce a salary cap until 1994 and found investors who were willing to buy in. And a territorial draft to better stock teams with familiar college talent. 3 months prior to the 1983 NFL draft, the USFL's inaugural draft took place. If the USFL was going to work, it was going to need notable players. But with two leagues trying to draft from the same pool of players, this created obvious problems. Drafting a certain player didn't mean that they were going to take your offer, but franchises in the USFL tried anyway. Dan Marino, John Elway, and Eric Dickerson, just to name a few, were all drafted by teams in the USFL. None of these three would ever play in this league. In fact, only about 30% of the 600 total players selected would sign with the USFL. But all this league needed was a few faces to push it forward.
Walker's still going. He's out of bounds. An incredible burst of speed and strength by Herschel Walker.
Probably the most notable player signed in the USFL was reigning Heisman Trophy winner Herschel Walker. Walker had just finished his junior season at Georgia. He wasn't eligible to be drafted into the NFL, but the USFL, on the other hand, was allowing athletes to turn professional after their junior season, unlike the NFL at the time. For the USFL, this was huge. The league was set to kick off spring football.
Inside the 3. Kent Hall ready to snap the ball to Scott. Tight end in motion. Herschel Walker straight ahead into the end zone. Touchdown. Scott back to throw. Scott dumps it out to Herschel Walker. Look at that. Walker's got the first down, still on his feet. Nobody can catch him there. He's got the speed. Nobody will. 65 yards.
The ball. He does most of this on his own. You'll see Walker coming into the picture. Gets bumped off. Herschel runs through 2 tackles. And once Clarence Chapman, number 22, the only man that really has a shot at him, and there's no way to catch him.
He's got the angle on him, and it made no difference.
With the original idea behind this league, teams were not supposed to turn a profit in year one, but one did. The Denver Gold, who had a losing record, but it just goes to show that the fans were out there. In fact, average attendance as a whole was around 25,000 fans per game, and TV ratings had exceeded expectations. And all of this was topped off with a wild championship game.
They can physically at this point to try and stop Michigan. Michigan, of course, wanting to pick up another first down.
Second down and 10 from the 48 of Philadelphia. Lush comes up, shows blitz, and he's coming. Heats on, Hebert gets it away, Carter's there, first down, he's loose, he's got some help, he's going for the corner, touchdown! Whoa!
One thing was for sure, the USFL's brand of football was exciting, and fans were buying in. In 1984, the New Jersey Generals were sold to Donald Trump. Trump, along with a few other owners, really pursued players in the NFL, and they brought in some serious talent. Trump signed Brian Sipe from the Cleveland Browns, who had just won NFL MVP 3 seasons prior. The Gamblers, the Gunslingers, the Showboats, the Outlaws. Trump, 3 straight Heisman Trophy winners drafted and played in the USFL.
You may have noticed how the USFL has attracted top quality players, like Heisman Trophy winners Doug Flutie and Herschel Walker. Boy, can they play. But they can do more than play in the USFL. Like we can do this. And this. Check us out. The USFL, where football is still a game.
The theme of this league was clear. It was aggressive, thrilling, and most of all, entertaining. This aggressive mindset made the football exciting, but it ultimately backfired. First off, the Dixon Plan had originally called for a $1.8 million salary cap for each team, but several teams far exceeded this amount in pursuit of players. This was done through the owners directly paying the players themselves. Due to trying to be competitive, this helped give the league some credibility, but teams were losing a lot more money. This caused many teams to eventually merge with one another or just completely fold altogether. Plus, there was some shady deals going on between owners.
What is your favorite story from the book, if you could choose one of the many?
I mean, the Chicago Blitz and the Arizona Wranglers were traded for each other after the first season. So the Blitz were George Allen's team, and they had they had like Tim Spencer and Greg Landry and Tim Reitman. They had good players. And the Wranglers were this crappy team in Arizona that I think they finished 4-14. It was an 18-game season. But the owner of the Chicago Blitz was a guy named Ted Dietrich who lived in Arizona. And he got tired of making 9 3-hour flights via charter jet to Chicago. So he had the teams traded for each other. So all the players in Chicago were traded for all the players in Arizona. And the Blitz became the Wranglers, and the Wranglers became the Blitz. As players said to me, like, my kids had to drop out of school and move to Arizona. My wife had to quit her job because this guy didn't want to fly 3 hours. So it's the best solution ever. But wait, the new owner of the Chicago Blitz is a guy named James Hoffman. 2 games into the season, he's walking off the field. The new Blitz are terrible. Their coach is Marv Levy. Marv Levy thought he was getting the good team until he showed up. Nobody told him the teams were traded for each other.
Oh my God, come on.
I swear to God. The owner, it's 2 games in. The owner's walking off the field with this guy, a former Bear named Dan Jiggets.
Oh, he does sports talk radio for years in Chicago.
So Dan Jiggets played for the Blitz.
Sure.
Dan Jiggets and the owner of the Blitz are walking off the field, and Hoffman, the owner, says, I'm out of here. And Jiggets is like, oh, where are you going? He's like, no, I'm out of here. I'm done with this. I don't want to do this anymore. And Jiggets is like, what? He's like, yeah, I'm done. I don't want to own this team anymore. He literally dumped the team on the side of the road, and the USFL had to take over. Like, he just decided one day, I don't really want to own a USFL team anymore. I think I'm done.
Along with teams going bankrupt, in 1984, some of the owners began the discussion of moving the league to the fall to directly compete with the NFL. This idea was mostly pushed by owners Eddie Einhorn and Donald Trump. They thought that this move would eventually force a merger between them and the NFL. The hope was that a handful of the teams and their owners who made it into the league would double their original investment. After the USFL's second season, the owners voted to move the league to the fall. This was an extremely aggressive attempt to help out a handful of owners, while the rest of the league would just dissolve.
Dissolve? What's dissolve? Is that even a word?
Yes, it is a word. And financially, it means you'll cease to exist. Let's don't get emotional about it. Just all right, you're being, well, Jackie, don't bite yourself. Come on.
ABC had offered the USFL a 4-year, $175 million TV deal to play in the spring of '86, but there just wasn't enough advocates left for the contract. With the league falling apart by the end of 1985, it was time for a desperate move. The USFL attempted to sue the NFL, claiming that they bullied major networks into not televising USFL games, and claiming that the NFL had a specific plan to eliminate the USFL. They sought $567 million in damages, which could have been tripled to $1.7 billion under antitrust laws. The USFL won, technically. You will not believe how much they got. They received a check in 1990 for $3.76. Yeah.
Trump had an, overvalued sort of presence. He convinced the other owners to move to fall. They famously sued the NFL. He guaranteed the other owners they would win the lawsuit. He guaranteed they would win.
And they did.
They won $1.
Times 3.
They could have won $1.3 billion. They won $3.
To this day, they have still never cashed that check. If you want to know more about the USFL, Jeff Pearlman wrote an entire book on the former league that came out this year. In the end, the USFL had a major impact on professional football in the 80s. The league had multiple players go on to be Hall of Famers in the NFL, influenced rule changes like the 2-point conversion, and it also allowed challenging the officials' ruling on the field via instant replay. This seems like every decade has another league attempt to make it in professional football. And even though it hasn't worked in a long time, I cannot wait for the next one to try.
The new XFL will kick off in 2020. Quite frankly, we're going to give the game of football back to fans.